Thank you so much for tuning into the Woman to Woman podcast, a conversation for women like you, smart, successful, curious, and interested in being your best self. Join both Sarah and I as we discuss topics that women our age are actually interested in, with both of us being candid and often having differing views.
As coaches, we sprinkle in advice and tips, along with humor and vulnerability. We hope you feel like a fly on the wall with two friends. Let's entertain and inform you and welcome you into our friendship.
We appreciate you pressing play and spending some time with us, wherever you are in the world.
Let the magic happen.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Angela. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm great.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I was thinking while we had a conversation offline, we start having this discussion about what it is to become a mother. And you mentioned about, this attachment of the identity of who we were before becoming a mom, right? And I thought that it was brilliant because I experienced a similar situation as well the moment that I became a mom, and then we're not ready, we're not prepared for that, and it can be pretty intense as an emotion to deal with, especially when you don't know what is going on, when you don't know okay, so let me just tell my story. When I became a mom 7 years ago, right? And oh no, 8 years ago, sorry. Okay, how can I say that? So I became a mom 8 years ago, and we are not prepared for that, right? We are definitely not prepared, even though we have 9 months that everybody is telling you, get ready, it changed your life. And you're like, yeah, but as I don't know what it's on the other side, I can't get ready to anything, right? That's the beauty of change, is that you never know what is on the other side. But the thing is that it did not become a difficult situation at first, because when my baby was very small, like it was baby, you have no choice to think about only the baby's needs, and especially the first one. My mom was working, so I was still in France at that time. My mom was working and I was staying home for the first 3 months. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with my day. I don't know what to do with my day. I don't know how to take care of the baby. Of course, I was prepared to feed him and to change him, take a shower from the bath, and that was okay. But even though I was overwhelmed, I didn't know what to do with the rest of the day. I was always anxious, and I was just like, oh, is it going to cry? Can I go and take my shower? Anyway, but these first months, it's not really where the identity crisis is coming, because you are so focused on delivering the needs to your child. But it's gradually after. So I believe that mine happened a little bit later, because at that moment as well, we were completely changing life, right? We were moving in Asia, and we're living in a teeny apartment, and we were just dealing with the day-to-day of this big change, So I became a mom, and I changed country, and I changed culture, and I changed life literally completely at that moment. So my identity crisis only happened few years after becoming a mom. And that was, when I knew how to do it, when the second arrived as well, I was better prepared. So I started having kind of a new routine installed. And it's only when this new routine happened naturally and was there, then I started to say, like, what, hold on, what happened in the last 4 years? Who I became? Who I became, who am I? I was so busy, with the first child, moving, changing countries. Then the second child arrived. And then suddenly I was just like, stop. What is it happening? Where am I? It's just like a kind of an awakening call. And then I was just like, who am I? And that was terrible. That was very difficult. So I'm not sure when did that happen for you? Do you remember?
Yes. For me, it happened straight away.
Oh,
Mm.
and
So
how did you
it
feel?
happened. So for me, and we've already spoken about this difference a lot, which is I always wanted to be a mother. Even now, it's my purpose. I'm sitting very much, on the extreme feminine side of life. I'm not as career driven. I'm more a home orientated person. So always wanted to be a mother. So that wasn't a problem for me. What was a problem was that I didn't want to lose who I was before. And I would say a good 60 to 70% of women do lose themselves in becoming a mother, particularly if you don't look at this identity shift. And as I was saying before off air, for me, and it just, it depends on what is in your life and in your realm. But I was very much hearing that when you birth your child, you birth the mother. And I was just a little bit like, here is Angela before, very independent. I mean, I was, married or whatever. That was not a big identity shift for me, but I think that can be for women. But I liked this Angela before birth, and then there was then there's the mother, and how do I amalgamate them? And more importantly to me, how do I not lose this woman? And I was holding on really hard. And I even felt in describing myself, even speaking to doctors, or even speaking to my husband at the time, there was a lot of, my son's name is Baron, and I really felt like I was turning into Baron's mother. And and then that was being Baron's mother rather than being Angela. And I think names just have a lot of meaning to me. When I got married, I knew myself as my first and my last name that I was born with. And for me, that's who I was. So even though I'm pretty old fashioned, I didn't change my name because I was attached to my first and surname as who I was. I don't really know if this is everyone, but names and labels of your name have a big impact on my identity. And so I just tried to find out who Baron's mother was. And I'm very much, now I embrace it and now I know who it is. And now I don't have any, huge shudder and actually breaking of myself when I call myself Baron's mother. You know what I mean? But in the first few weeks and months, I did. And I was trying to find out how to bring them together. And for me, it was an acceptance of bringing them together. And I do think it really helped me that I was aware that I didn't want to lose who I was. There was a lot of resistance in the middle of how are they going to become together, and I don't want this one to swallow up and kill this person. And I found a way to bring them together. I was very aware of it and yet resistant at the same time.
So I'd like that you help us to understand what are those tips that a mom can do when she's facing this identity crisis. I just want to, before that we go there, I just want to express that this identity crisis, I believe seriously that it happens to everyone. And as you can see, again, it does happen differently at a different time, but it does happen anyway. And I really agree with the identity that I was Sarah. I was the career driven. I was having friends, and I was going out, and I was having my life, and I was independent, and I was, I was enjoying really my life. And then when I was ready to have a kid, I was not ready to what was coming next, and then being called, Miles' mom. And I was just like, okay, so I'm just a mom now. And when I arrived in this country, right, the thing is that there are a lots of women circle, and most of the time these women circle are, I mean, most of the time, no, I'm not saying that. I don't know. But the one that I have been that I've been invited to are the mother circle, which means that we are here to talk about the motherhood. And then it was all about the motherhood. And then it was like, now I have to date with mothers. I cannot date the other one because they won't understand me. They won't understand, what I'm going through. So I have no choice to go with these mothers. But then every time they were talking, I was not resonating with, and it was just like, oh my God. I mean, I understand what they're going through, and I understand how it can help. But for me, it was not, because it was just like, no, this is not who I am, and this is not who I want to be. I don't want to be labeled as only a mother. I am a mother, and this is who I am now. I accepted that. But when this identity crisis happens, it can be a shock. It can be a real shock. And not for everyone, but it's just that I feel that if this episode is listened by some women who are pregnant, who are not yet pregnant and wants to be a mother, yes, it's a beautiful journey. It's probably the most beautiful journey, but it will come with an identity shift. I'm not using necessarily change, because it's not a complete opposite of of who you were before. It's just that you need to learn how to blend this new identity with who you were, and not to repress and not to shut down who you were before, because this woman is still there, and that's the woman that shines the light in your life. That woman, to me, it's really the woman that shines your lights. And you need that woman, you need that, whatever you were driven by, you need that woman to blend it with your label of a mother, and to become that new person, that new identity of who you are. But sometimes when this shift happens, there is a conflict, because it seems to be completely in opposition. And the role is how to blend this together. So this shift can be an important shift in your life. So do you have any tips on how we can make it a little bit less as a shock?
Yes. Well, I mean, as with everything, it's always awareness. Right at the end there, I loved what you said about that woman is sort of the shining light. And I think, and there's the age-old motherhood argument, like, those who stay home versus those who go to work, or those who, shun motherhood and blah, 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 or those who, get engulfed by it. There are all different ideas. So I do think that even if you choose to be a stay-at-home mother, you still need to recognize who you were before, and that shining light that you said, and that and you have to hold on to that, because there is a real discussion about the fact that motherhood is only for a period. And you have to let go of that motherhood, and you still have to find out who you are. So it is really important to bring this girl with you no matter where you go, because you will just be left with her at the end. And there is another identity crisis that we're not talking about, which is when you're not an active mother anymore. So you'll always be someone's mother. But so that's a whole other one that neither of us have been through, but I'm very aware of. And so, yeah, so my first tip is awareness. I do think there is a trap for women who perhaps have children early, who perhaps don't feel they have a strong identity before becoming a mother. There is a trap to lose yourself completely. This girl just goes out the window, and we all know women like this who identify only with being mother, and then they've got a huge identity crisis coming their way. So awareness of all of these identity situations going into being a mother is really important. I do think that depending on how strong your sense of self is, the whole topic is actually really intimidating, really scary. and probably something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And they, like anything, they just go into it with their head in the sand, and that feels more comfortable. And for some people, they may have children with disabilities or really hard kids, or they don't connect to their child, which is a huge thing. So then they're just completely screwed in being a mother. So the whole thing is really scary. And, but it doesn't have to be. You know what I mean? I think the biggest thing, and again, not everyone has this, but is to rely on your own mother a little bit during this period. I think she's a great person to talk to. And I also think getting help and just talking and bringing out into awareness the huge identity, issues that come around being a mother. And so the stronger your foundation is within yourself, the better you will be able to lead your family. So, but what I did want to say about that guiding light that you said is that person you were before, that is also who your children want you to be. So they want you to be their mother. And absolutely in the first year, it is impossible to really, she doesn't have a lot going on. You have to look after a baby who is helpless. But as they get to 5, 6, 10, 20, they want to make sure that you're happy, and they want to know who you are. And even if you're a complete stay-at-home mother, you still have your thoughts, your opinions. You need to stay in contact with what her hobbies were, what her dreams were. And that can absolutely just to be a mother. But, then do you start, mothering the community? What kind of a mother are you? Like, I don't think mothering should have to be a really narrow thing. You can widen it. Do you know what I mean? And your kids want to see that you have a strong sense of self. They want to see that you're okay. And really, I don't believe any child wants to believe that they are the only focus of your life, because it puts a lot of pressure on them when they want to individuate. So just holding on to who you were beforehand, and allowing that to guide you. I think what you said was really beautiful, but it's all about awareness as the first step, and not being afraid of change, embracing it, and just, I don't know, trying to figure out who you want to be along the way. None of us figure it out all together, but being aware of it, motherhood is kind of like a wave that can take you out. It can take you out. So you do need to make sure you stay connected to self.
Yes, that's definitely well said. There is just one thing that you said, and I want to share my experience with that, because when you say that, go and connect with your mom and then have a conversation, right, with your mom. And my mom is everything for me. She's my best friend. She's my guide. She's my light. We are very close, but she's not always right. And what happened is that my mom has that belief that when you become a mom, you have to shut down that identity of who you were. And I listened to that. Because she said, you need to put yourself, when you have kids, when I was sharing that life was hard and it's difficult, that it's, that sometimes I just losing it all. And I was sharing that with her, and she was like, yeah, but you're still attached to your old life, to your old self. You need to let that go. When you are becoming a mom, you need to take a pause of who you were and dedicate your entire being to your kids. It's them first, you second. I listened to that. I listened to that. And I can tell you, my identity crisis happened after 4 years. So I was a mom of 2 kids, because I was too busy with all the rest to think about who am I, to think about myself. And also unconsciously, I followed the advice of my mom, which was saying, forget about yourself. If you have a problem, it's not you. It's not about you. It's about your children. When the identity crisis happened, I can tell you that my biggest lesson is that my mistake was to listen to that advice, which is not true. And it took me a while. It took me some separation from that idea, and from the fact that my mom was not perfect, and that she did not give me a correct advice that was fitting me, because I can be wild, in my way of thinking sometimes, which is not her case. And anyway, so I followed that advice. And then when the identity crisis happened, I completely lost the sense of myself, because for 4 years I was completely detached of who I was before. And I never bring that back. And then I was just like, no, I am not the mother I want to be. Why is that? Because I repressed who I was before, just because I listened to that advice, which I thought would make sense, because of course when there is a little one, you just want to give them all of you. But the misunderstanding about that is that, as you said, your children want to be that light. You want to be that shining light as well, not just the label of mother. So for me, it was very like, that's where for me it was a shock. When I had this identity crisis, it did not happen smoothly. I was losing my husband at that moment as well. So it came out of a complete disaster of my life when I had this identity crisis. And then it's by being aware the patterns that I was following, putting myself away, like completely make it disappear because it does no longer exist, and dedicate your new self to your kids. But this new self, I didn't know who I was, because I lost what I was before. And so after that, I understood that it was because of this pattern that I was trying to shut down myself, the old self, and to create a new one out of nothing. And of course, I became just a mom. I was, at that time, my identity was just a mom. But you are beyond that. You need to understand that it's not because you're becoming a mother that it cancels all the other identities that you have. No, it's a combination, it's a melting, it's the blending of all of that, of who you are. And so after, it took me awareness, it took me pain, it took me healing a lot to understand that, and also forgiveness to my mom, because seriously, I mean, when I realized that this advice was pure BS, I needed a lot of forgiveness for my mom, because that's how she did it. And of course I understood, it really helps me to understand a lot of things, by the way, from her. And now we are even closer. Every year that we are going through a learning together, then it's just like we're getting stronger. But still, as she's getting old, she still had this old idea. And now that I understood who I am, and I'm still searching for some pieces of it, but now this is how I understood that definitely your old self, it's not an old self, it's just a self from the past, but you need to bring it with you, because this is where you know where you come from. And anyway, and recently we were having a discussion with my mom, and she was still bringing that idea, on the conversation, because I don't remember what story I was sharing. And she was like, oh, no, I know. It's because when I'm starting to do some weekend off of my kids, where I just go on the girls' trip, just for a weekend. I just go on a girls' trip, leave my kids. This is something I would never done before. But now it's something that I'm much more stable here. I have my friends, so now we go on a weekend, just one night or 2 nights out. And then when I was sharing this with my mom, she was like, who's going to take care of the kids? And I'm like, well, they have a dad, and also I have someone helping at home. I have a nanny at home as well. So I mean, it's not like they will die and they won't eat for 2 days, right? But you see, it's always bringing back. And she was like, no, they're too young for you to leave home like this. And I'm like, I'm not listening to that anymore. I already explained you what I went through. Just because of listening to that, it's not how it is. It was maybe for you and it worked out well, good for you, but it's not working for me. So this is where this is definitely an awareness that you need to know is, if there is only one thing that you need to take from this episode, is do not shut down who you were before. This lady, even if you don't even like that person, there is still good in it, and be grateful for what it taught you. What was in the case of you don't like that old self, right? Be grateful for, because this old self bring you to who you are, or where you are right now in your life. There is
Hide from that, by
just
the
good.
way.
What is it?
You can't hide from yourself. It's going to come knocking. Like, you can't hide from who you were. But what I would like to say, and that I think people should get out of this podcast is, and this is why I listen to podcasts, and this is why conversations and having a varied friendship group, ages, cultures, sexes, races, everything is really important, because you only grow up with like a very limited view of the world. And it's so funny that I had such a different experience with my mum. And it's by having this conversation, or, for you guys listening to us, that it expands your worldview. And this is, I'm so open-minded, and I really believe in being open-minded and, connecting with people of different races and political views to expand your mind. And we have such different stories. Like, I swear to God, I just pulled my son, out of myself, and my mum is like, okay, so motherhood, that is a journey of letting this child go. It's a slow journey of letting them go. Now, my mum was a stay-at-home mum. She baked us cookies, she picked us up every day, but she maintained a very strong sense of independence. And it has really helped me as a child, because I got that loving, Betty White, or, whatever, 1950s mother. I kind of had that. But at the same time, on this podcast, one of our guests opened me up to like how independent my mum was. So she was a home person, but then she'd have Tupperware parties. She used to do people's ironing, like they would drop off. She was a little own entrepreneur. And I'm still very much on the journey of learning about my mum. I'm not as close as you are. I am close, but we are so different. And a lot of, her mothering has actually informed, what I don't want to do, but a lot of it has informed what I do want to do. And, but what she definitely did was, give me that independent streak, instill, being what most people would see as a traditional stay-at-home mum, and has really helped me. That's why it was a short journey for me to hold on to my old self, because my mum encouraged that. And yeah, so it's kind of just the worldview that you're given, which you absolutely have to challenge. And by listening to other people's experiences can open that worldview for you. So
Yeah, and you just bring up something that it's a learning for me, because the sense of self, I think it worked for my mom because she has a high sense of self, and this is something that she didn't know how to teach me. And my sense of self was a little bit low when I was a young kid, and so probably that's what makes the difference between this, what she was telling me did work for her, because she I believe that she has a high sense of self, which
she
was
didn't have
not
to
my case.
onto it. Yeah, she didn't have to actively hold on to it because she couldn't lose it. You know what I mean? There are
Exactly.
some people that can't lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we're all different. And this is where human design really helps, because I can even tell you where in your chart you'll be able to see if you have a consistent sense of self or not. Do you remember, Sarah, if you have your the G center, is it colored in?
The G center, yes, I think it's colored in.
Open. Is it? Well, then that means, so if it's colored in, you should have a really strong sense of self. And if it is not colored in, for your entire life, you will actually have an inconsistent sense of self. And that's correct for you, but you won't. It is an area in which you can gain a lot of wisdom. So you sound like an open G center, but then you can also, you're the opposite. So you can also be the opposite, if you had wounding in that area, and depending on your caretakers, how they conditioned you.
It's all about the conditioning. Yeah. It's all, I can tell you by experience, yes, my sense of self is there, but it has been shut down by conditioning, by experience, by environment. So this is I can confirm that definitely.
Mhm. All right. Well, this was a fascinating conversation, one I love to have. So that was great, Sarah.
It's a
There's so
nice
many
one.
takeaways from this one, guys. This is a good one to listen to, particularly if
Definitely.
you're a woman, but also if you're a man, because you have no idea what your lady is going through at that time, you know. And
So true.
obviously, I actually believe, and not that I know anything about this, but I believe postpartum depression is very much probably attached to this identity shift that women are not ready for. It's actually a book that we need in this world. Sarah, maybe we need to write this book. It's a very, very, no,
You're
I'm
right.
actually not like any, you know, I mean, a lot of inspiration comes from when you find that there isn't anything. And so there's a lot about, you know, what to eat and how to put, you know, the sleeping techniques and all of that, but there's not a lot focused on the mother. There is, although one of the first books I read as a mother, and this is an Australian book, it's called Mother Guilt. And I actually really recommend it. It feels a bit dated when you read it, but it is famous Australian women speaking about mother guilt. Now, here's another topic for us, Sarah. I don't even know if you've even heard this, but I read it because I was feeling mother guilt, you know, because I used to go away, and I at the time really wanted to prioritize my marriage over my child because I believe, you know, that family structure is really important. That didn't end up working out for me, but whenever you do prioritize something above your child, or even when you explore something, you know, above your child, you can have what's called mother guilt. And so it was one of the first books I read because, you know, even though I didn't want to experience it, I did. And I felt by sharing in other women's stories in that book was really helpful.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. We're going to put the reference in the episodes in the comments below. And I really hope that you appreciated that episode because for us is a gift from us to you because we love sharing what we experience, but everyone is unique. So hope you're going to learn something out of this one.
I hope so too. All right, have a great day, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and every time you listen, we truly appreciate it. And if you would like to follow me or learn more about my work or get in contact with me, please go to my website, which is angelajanecoaching.com.
And if you want to know more about my work, you can go on sarahmeng.com. All the details are going to be listed in a comment below. You can also follow us on social media, Instagram or Facebook, where we are sharing our daily tips.
Bye.
Hope to see you soon.